What's up, Sinos, and anybody else who might be tuning in? This is going to be sort of a soft launch of a concept that I've wanted to execute for a while, and I'm naming this Stick Speaks. And what this is going to be is sort of like a podcast type of thing that I do, where I kind of just sit down, usually while I'm working on other stuff. Sometimes I could just be chilling, talking, maybe watching videos and commenting on them occasionally sometimes. And it's going to be kind of a minimally edited, loose format kind of thing for me to just talk about general stuff, put my thoughts out there, and I feel like it would be a good way to connect with my audience, as well as potentially interview creators in the future, such as other animators and other YouTubers in general, and maybe even people who aren't YouTubers, like streamers and stuff, if it ever gets to that point. Maybe even people in real life. So I'm just sitting here in my little I guess you could call this a recording booth. It's my setup, which I have in my closet, right? I have my dual monitors. If you're watching this on YouTube, which you most likely are, because that's where I'm going to be releasing this first, there will be a little bit of Blender footage, because I'm going to be working on a Blender render that rhymes while I'm talking to you, everybody. And at the end of the video, I might show it off. Who knows? It really depends. And for anybody who might be listening, I don't really know if you'd be able to see anything, but I hope you still enjoy the conversations and the chilling and kind of just the vibes of whatever we have going on here. I'm kind of figuring everything out. This is my first time ever trying to do something of this nature, so I'm not really used to talking unfiltered, especially by myself, for this amount of time. But I do have, I guess you could call it a loose script. I have some topics and suggestions of things to talk about while I'm here working on this little, I guess you could call it pose, right? This little picture. And I'm going to try my best to communicate while I work on this and not be super dry or anything. And if anybody in the comments has any interesting prompts or discussions or things they would like to hear me talk about, or things they think would be interesting for me to discuss on this type of format, just drop it in the comments below. It could be on this video, it could be on another video, it could be on a community post that I make, it could be in my Discord server, which you can find down below in the comment section, or you can find it in the description of this video. Moving on from that point, speaking of my Discord server, we recently hit 600 members, and I think that's really cool because I've never had a server that I've made myself ever reach that amount of people in it. And I think it just goes to show that working on stuff for a long time, like animation and content creating, it's not always as easy as it seems, but the more you do it, the better you get at it, and the further you can go in terms of creating things, in my opinion. And by the way, kind of forgot to mention it, but I'm just gonna throw it out here because we've already kind of started. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and like the video. If I actually go back and edit this, maybe I'll remember to add a little bit of a visual effect at this point in the video, but it might not even matter. Or maybe I'll put it at the beginning of the video, who knows. So I've been learning Blender recently, as you may be able to tell if you're watching the YouTube video. Or if you've been keeping up with, at the time of me making this video, my recent community posts of me basically just showing off the fact that I've started to learn how to make stuff in Blender. Now, this rig that I'm working with here isn't mine, and whatever the compositing or rendering of this isn't mine. I'm basically just posing it, right? I'm doing facial expressions and stuff. But I'm trying to learn how to use Blender because, for one, I think Blender is just a really awesome program, right? Two, I think it is very useful for evolving the, I guess you could say, quality of your animations and your content. like for me, I'm an animator, right? So I want to have the best animation quality possible, and I think Blender has a lot of tools that kind of help you reach like the fullest potential of like your animation ability, if that makes sense. You know? And one of the things that I enjoy about this Sonic rig that I'm using right now, which if you didn't know it was a Sonic rig, I probably should have mentioned that earlier. It's very flexible. Like there's a lot of wiggle room. Like I'm very new to Blender, but I'm very, I guess you could say, comfortable with the rig because it's so, like, it's not very different from, I guess you could say, Sticknodes, in the sense that there's bones, you grab the bones, you drag them, move them around, and you use that to pose the guy. Moving on from that point, I wanted to talk a little bit about Lights Gaze, because Lights Gaze is, for one, my passion project, and two, something that, like, a majority of my channel is based around. I mean, I'm named after the main character, and things of that nature, you know? So, like, Lights Gaze started out as kind of like, well, originally it wasn't even like, I wasn't even making Lights Gaze. I was making a completely different series called Storm Siege, which was like a Dragon Ball inspired, mostly Dragon Ball, kind of inspired by other series, like fan fiction-y kind of, I don't know, it was weird. I don't even really know where I was going with the story for it. It was kind of just all over the place and whatever. But I mean, at the time people enjoyed watching it, and that made me feel fulfilled. But I had gotten a lot of criticism from people for basically being like, oh, this is my original series, but it's kind of just Dragon Ball, you know? So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna make a different series, you know? So then I started coming up with the concept, and I made Kurenma before I even finalized anything for the series. He was just a guy that I made, like, as a character because I thought he'd be cool. And then the series' original name was called Lifelight, and it was going to be about, like, somewhat average people who have, like, minor superpowers, I guess, just, like, going through daily shit. And then Kurenma would also be there, but Kurenma would be, like, this, like, super powerful alien kind of guy. But I didn't really care for the concept that I was creating at that time, so it went through a lot of changes as, you know, more stuff got added to it, as more writing was produced. There was a whole pilot that was made before the current pilot that I wouldn't say flopped, but it wasn't really, like, up to my expectations or standards, so I kind of threw it in the trash. Remember to stay hydrated, guys. So, yeah, my series has always been something that I really enjoyed making. And I always want to keep improving so I can make it, like, as good as possible, you know? Like, if I can always get better, then I always want to get better, you know? It's kind of just how I am when it comes to my series. And I hope other people with their series, whether it be Sticknodes, whether it be hand-drawn, 3D animation, etc., they always strive to do stuff like that. Like, The Amazing Digital Circus, for me, is, like, an infamous example of that, because it started out as, like, I wouldn't say simple, but, like, the visuals of the series improve massively as it goes on. Like, by episode 4, you really start to notice, like, wow, the budget for this series has gone up, like, insanely high, you know? Because unlike a regular TV series, right, where you'll have one season and the entire season will be done in one batch and they'll release it over time, right? The Amazing Digital Circus, they make an episode, they release it, and then they start working on the next episode. So it's like, whatever they learned from the first episode, they transfer that knowledge into the next one, so it just keeps getting better. And it's a short series, mind you. It's only going to be 9 episodes, I'm pretty sure, once it's finished. So it's like, it's not like it's gonna be like a ton of episodes. We're not gonna get some like, well, the animation's really good, but I wouldn't say we're gonna get some like movie quality animation, right, or anything like insane. But it's almost there, and it's like, it's kind of interesting to think about, you know, especially because it's an indie animation series, so it doesn't have, I guess you could say, the corporate backing and like the studio funding that like a lot of other animation series would have, especially 3D animation series, you know. So they kind of just had to make shit on their own and like crowdsource and get the community involved and everything, and I think that's beautiful, and that's something that I want to strive for. Even as a smaller content creator, I would never want to be like famous or on the level of like a series like that, you know, where I'm like, I wouldn't say I have the attention of the world, but it's like I'm one of the biggest animation series out there, you know. I just want to have my little niche, but I also want to have a community that's like supportive and like is able to get together to like do things for other people and like each other, if that makes sense, you know. I think that's like a beautiful thing to have, just like generally speaking. And speaking about Sticknodes, I just kind of want to talk about like stick animation while I'm on the topic, and kind of like what my introduction to that was. So when I was younger, I watched a lot of YouTube, obviously, as kids from this generation normally would, and I watched a lot of fight animations because I've always been a fan of anime and cartoons like Dragon Ball and Naruto and stuff like that. So I've always enjoyed watching like fight animations, especially like stick figure fight animations, because I think that such a simple format gets like taken and molded into like beautiful masterpieces with like stick figures. Like Alan Becker, for instance, is like a famous example of regular stick figures that have like this massive community. They get millions of views. It's like humongous. It's like a brand at this point, and it's just stick figures. Like the main characters don't even have, I guess, really core design traits outside of basic colors and the orange guy having like a bigger head, right? So it's like, it's fascinating to me that like stick animation has such an appeal to it, and such like a global, I guess you could say, like respect, in the sense that like even like animators from other parts of the world, like Japan or from Spanish areas or European areas, you know, even they recognize that like stick figure animations and stuff like that are like beautiful, you know, and the art form can be taken and turned into like amazing things. And when I was younger, I used to watch like a bunch of Sticknodes animators, and it used to inspire me to want to create stuff, because seeing people animate stuff and knowing that they're using the same tools that I have basically is like, wow, I can do that too if I put the effort in. And that's inspiring to me as somebody who's always wanted to create art, who's always been inspired by art, you know. That's kind of just something that I've always loved, is art and showcasing art and getting people to pursue art, because I think art is a beautiful like creative form, you know. I think there's a lot of passion that goes into art, any type of art, whether it be music, whether it be drawings, paintings, sculpting, you know, all kinds of stuff. I think that it's like something that can bring people together, you know, especially in like times like how the current world is now, where there's like a ton of shit going on, you know. I feel like art is like one of those things that like holds everybody together and like keeps everything going, you know, keeps the like morale up for like the world, you know. Kind of sidetracking or getting onto a tangent from that, Sticknodes as a genre, I've seen, has two sides to it in my opinion. There's like the mainstream side that doesn't really know about like the history of the app or anything. They just kind of animate to animate because it's the animation software, and you get like your Skibbity toilets, your Godzilla vs King Kongs, your Goku versus Vegetas, your generic stuff, right? And then there's like the more niche side of the community, where most of like the actual figureheads of the community hang out, like the owner and like members of like people who have been involved with like official Sticknodes collabs, for example, and shit, who don't really interact with the mainstream and don't get as much attention as the mainstream. Like we're not pulling 100 million views or anything, but we're still like, we are our own community, and we can like show up for each other and still get like thousands of views on shit. It's mainly just like it's like two sides of a coin, you know? Like, we don't really interact with each other, but we're always there. Um, but yeah, YouTube trends have always been super odd to me, because it's like, you could make the most comprehensive masterpiece, like, exquisite video ever, and it could do terribly on YouTube, right? But then you add Skibbity Toilet, and it's like a YouTube short, and it gets 300 million views or some shit. Like, the algorithm is so weird to me, I don't really get it, but it's kind of just like, people search for stuff, people want this thing, and then people supply and demand. I guess that's just kind of how it works. And one of the things that kind of bugs me about supply and demand and like animation and stuff like that is like criticism, especially when it comes from people who don't fully know what they're talking about, if that makes sense. Not to say that like you can't criticize something if you're not like you don't have to be a chef to criticize food, right? Obviously. But I feel like there's a certain level of knowledge that comes into criticizing something. You can't blindly just say like something is this or something is that when you don't even fully understand it. And I think animation is like one of those things that a lot of people underestimate the technical knowledge of. Like, if I asked a random person who watches anime to name the 12 principles of animation, they probably wouldn't be able to do it. In fact, a lot of animators probably wouldn't be able to name all 12 principles of animation off the top of their head, like, in a row. Because, for one, it's not like an official comprehensive thing. It's kind of like a subjective standard that animation's held to, like, over time, to where it's kind of become an official thing, but it was never like a real set of animation. It's just something that was kind of created, right? But like, media literacy in terms of like criticizing animation, I feel like has become a very big issue, especially in the past few years, which I think is weird. Like, one of the big examples to me is Sparking Zero, because I was there for Sparking Zero for the entirety of its lifespan, right? From when it was first revealed until when it came out. I was hyped the whole time. I watched every trailer. I watched every sneak peek I could, every bit of leaked information I could, and I had the expectations that I had when I first played the game, and I really enjoyed it, right? But a lot of people didn't enjoy the game because, in my opinion, I feel like they set themselves up for failure because they expected things out of the game that they weren't going to get and that weren't advertised. What they advertised from the game is what we got. We got custom battles, we got what-if battles, we got a story mode for a couple characters, we got customization, we got online battles, all of that stuff. Now, I'm not saying everything was perfect, especially not on release. You know, shit was buggy, a lot of stuff needed to be patched, a lot of shit was unbalanced, but I feel like people really dogpiled on Sparking Zero in, like, I wouldn't say over-criticized, but kind of, like, too heavily, like, criticized parts of it that, like, weren't the focus of the game. Like, the focus of the game was never to be competitive. It was always meant to be this, Dragon Ball experience, right? Like, you're supposed to be experiencing Dragon Ball while you, like, you're supposed to be experiencing it while you play, basically, right? And it's like, people kind of thought that it was supposed to be everything, like the everything Dragon Ball game. And it's not. It's supposed to be almost like a Dragon Ball simulator. You know, that's what the Tenkaichi games have always been. But the older Tenkaichi games, they had more references and more details and stuff because they had like a whole decade after the series ended to basically create the perfect game. And video game technology was developing at that time at a way faster rate. So it was like, video games were, it was basically just like a collage of like a perfect scenario. Like, Tenkaichi 2 and 3 existing in the modern day would never happen. It was only a thing that could happen back in the 2000s when Dragon Ball was specifically not airing anymore, right? It was still on Toonami, I think, but like Kai wasn't a thing yet. I don't think Yo Son Goku was a thing yet. Like, they weren't planning on continuing the series at any point, in any fashion. Like, it was donezo, finished, and they were just making games and shit, just making the best games possible for Dragon Ball fans. And they just kept cranking them out year after year after year, and getting better and better, until Tenkaichi 3, you know? And they kept making games after that, and even the games they made after that were still good, but it's like, Well, not all of them. I wouldn't say every Dragon Ball game is good by any means, but it's like I think people who played Sparking Zero just had bad expectations, and they didn't really take into consideration all of the positive aspects of the game, weighing them with the less positive aspects, I guess you could say. Because I wouldn't genuinely say there's any real negative aspects about Sparking Zero, apart from maybe like the lack of costumes and like skill swapping. But that's not really like an outright negative, I would say. Like, there's nothing about the game I would say they did badly, in my opinion. Like, I just wish there was more shit. And when your biggest complaint about a game is that you wish there was more of it, I don't really think it's that bad of a game, you know, in my opinion. Like, I love Sparking Zero. It's not my favorite Dragon Ball game, but I think it's a damn good one, you know? In a similar sense, like Sonic Frontiers, for example, right? When Sonic Frontiers first came out, there was a lot of mixed opinions on it. Some people thought it was an amazing game. Some people thought it was a terrible game. Me, personally, I thought it was pretty good. Do I think it's the best Sonic game ever? No, but do I think it was a very good return to form, especially after Forces? Absolutely, and I think it deserved to be praised for that in like every respect, you know? But moving on from the topic of games and media literacy for a second, I kind of want to just talk about like kids cartoons and like my favorite cartoons growing up and stuff. But first, I'm going to take a sip of a non-sponsored Gatorade. Always make sure you stay hydrated. But yeah, kids cartoons, I think, are awesome, you know? And I've been watching them since I was a kid. Now I'm a bigger kid, you know? And one of my favorite cartoons has always been SpongeBob, because I think SpongeBob's really fucking funny. And I know this is obviously not like a controversial take. This is like the most generic thing you could possibly say about cartoons ever, right? Besides saying like, oh, I know who Mickey Mouse is, you know? But I think SpongeBob is just like one of those like generational shows that like comes about once in a lifetime, you know? Like, or like a show or a movie that comes around like once in a lifetime that like you talk about for generations and generations to come, like Mickey Mouse, you know? Like, I think SpongeBob is timeless. Like the original classic series, I think, is very timeless. I think it holds up to this day. Like, the jokes are all still very funny, you know? I think it's just overall probably, I wouldn't say the best cartoon of all time, but like you could make the argument for SpongeBob kind of being like compy in terms of like it's arguably the best cartoon of all time, if we're being real. Like, maybe not story-wise, but comedy-wise, it's definitely up there. The only things that I think could, like, compete with SpongeBob is, like, Tom and Jerry. Like, the classic shit. Like, Warner Bros. Also, I hope you guys who are watching the YouTube video enjoy how this pose is doing so far, because I am just starting to work on it again, because I was kind of yapping for a bit, and I forgot I'm supposed to be animating. Or not animating, but posing. And this is looking pretty good. I don't want to go like super overboard with it, but the goal is to make like super like, I guess you could call this dramatic supersonic pose, like making them look as cool as possible. And that is definitely the goal that I'm going for here. Just looking as cool as possible. I've always loved Sonic ever since I was young. Like, Sonic's always been one of my favorite characters because he's the embodiment of, like, a free spirit, you know? Like, he just does whatever he wants, whenever he wants. Well, like, not in a bad way. It's just, like, he lives his life freely, and I think that's a beautiful thing to be able to do, you know? I think it's awesome. And one of my favorite things about Sonic is the voice acting aspect, because, you know, not only am I a voice actor, not like professionally or anything, but like I've been voice acting since like 2020, so I've been doing it for like half a decade now, which is crazy to say out loud, you know, but it's like, it's so odd to me that all of the Sonic voices sound so different, like Jaleel White, Roger Craig Smith, Jason Griffith. I mean, Ryan kind of sounds like the Japanese one, but they all sound fairly different from each other, but they all distinctly sound like Sonic to me. Like, it's peculiar. I don't know, like, I guess when somebody voices Sonic, they just sound like Sonic, like, from then on. It's like a ritual. Like, Ben Schwartz also just sounds like Sonic after he started playing movie Sonic. Like, it's weird. It doesn't really make sense to me. But I do think that he's a very cool guy, as well as all of the other Sonic voice actors, but mainly him. Right now I'm working on these quills, trying to make them look correct. Not really sure if this is what I'm going for here. Yeah, I mean, I guess it could kind of work. It's not really like, it's not really doing it for me. Let me see if I can edit it's mainly the side spikes that I think are fucking it up. Like, I think the other ones are doing pretty okay. It's just, these ones are kind of weird. Yeah, I love kids' cartoons. I also love music. I think music's also awesome. One of my favorite genres, if not my favorite genre, is probably jazz. Just because it's so, like, relaxing and it's freeform. So it's like, well, the jazz that I, like, love the most is freeform. So it's just like, you find the rhythm just naturally while you're playing. Like, you just get groovy, you know? And I think that's awesome. I think music's one of the best ways that you can express yourself, you know, as well as art. And speaking of music, one of my favorite artists is Kendrick Lamar, because I think Kendrick Lamar has a way of making his music apply to, like, the masses, you know? Like, he tells a story that you can apply to, like, anybody that you know, like father troubles, relationship issues, you know, addiction problems, struggling with poverty, growing up in the hood, I guess you could say, you know, the projects. And he does so many different styles of rap. Like, one of the things that's never made sense to me, and this ties back into what I was saying earlier about media literacy, one of the things that's never made sense to me is Kendrick Lamar sounds the same all the time, or Kendrick Lamar always does the same type of thing, because I feel like he does the exact opposite. Like, no two Kendrick Lamar albums sound the same, and, like, even song to song, like, there's songs on, like, Good Kid, Mad City that sound nothing like other songs on Good Kid, Mad City. Like, Backseat Freestyle sounds nothing like Samadot. Like, somebody saying that they sound similar to me is insane, because, like, I don't think you could get much different in terms of rap than those two songs. It's like two different fucking ballparks, you know? And I just don't understand how people can, like, say shit like that. Like, like, some part of it is rage bait. I know to a certain extent some part of it is rage bait, but it's like, it just makes no sense to me. It feels like insane, like fake almost. Like, how do you even come up with shit like this and think that it, like, makes sense? Like, shit is wild. Alright, this pose should almost be done. I'm probably just gonna, like, edit the eyes a little bit. Speaking of rap also, Eminem's also a controversial rapper for the reason that, like, he makes, like, technically speaking, Eminem's one of the best rappers of all time. But lyrically speaking, as in the shit that he actually writes in his songs, it's kind of hit or miss, because after his first 3 albums, he kind of just started rapping about bullshit, but he's, like, so good at rapping that it still sounds kind of good, and it still sells well, because he's, not only is he Eminem, you know, and like he already made 8 Mile by that point. He already had 3 classic albums, but it's like he's very good at making stupid shit rhyme, you know? And that works for him and against him, because sometimes he just rhyme shit to rhyme shit, even if it makes no sense, even if it has no coherency to anything. Like, within a structure of a song, he's just rhyming words, basically, with no thought behind them. And sometimes that's fire, you know, like Rigor Mortis by Kendrick Lamar, another Kendrick Lamar song. I don't want to glaze him too much, but I do really like Kendrick Lamar. And Rigor Mortis, I think, is an example of him rhyming a lot of shit, being very lyrical, while also saying shit at the same time. Like, he's not just yapping, you know? Like, he is kind of yapping, but he's still saying words, whereas Eminem will just say stupid shit or corny stuff that makes no sense or can actively ruin the song for you just because it rhymes or it's kind of funny to him. And I think that's kind of weird, and why he has a lot of stigma as an artist nowadays, even though I still think he makes great music. It's mainly just like public perception kind of like sows seeds of doubt in certain people's minds in that regard. But I do think it's important for a lot of people, like my audience, I would hope, and myself especially, I try, is to be your own person. You know, don't just listen to what other people say or what the popular opinion is. Figure things out for yourself. If you like something, you like it. If you don't, you don't. Let it be known. If you want to figure out why you don't like something, go in depth about it more, you know? Like, for instance, I can say I don't like an artist, like, let me throw out an example, like 6ix9ine, right? I don't like an artist like him because he's very, I don't know, he's just very, like slop. He's like brain rot almost, like brain rot music. His music has no direction behind it. Like Kendrick Lamar or even Eminem or like other rappers, JID, you know, they have a direction with their music and they have a focus as to like what they're trying to make and where they're trying to go with it. Whereas I feel like rappers like Tekashi or like Lil Pump or like Lil Xan or like characters of that nature, you know, just like they don't really do anything substantial. They're kind of just making like filler music, basically, just like club shit, like fucking background noise, like white noise, basically. They're just doing nothing, you know? And like I think recent music and recent pop culture has like an effect on that to a certain extent, because like if you've been looking at like the music charts in the past 2-3 years, especially with the rise of AI and stuff, it's been crazy how like the music charts are just not the same as they used to be. Like, obviously the best songs are still at the top in my opinion, but it's like there's AI songs and artists on the chart now, like not even real people, like actually fake individuals. Like, it's crazy to me, you know? And I just think that it's wild that we live in an era where we're literally competing with robots for attention. Like, we're competing with artificial beings for attention. Like, beings that other humans created that aren't actually them. Just, like, artificial shit. It's crazy to me. Like, there's this one TikTok artist that's, like, this female, and I think her name is, like, Zanaya Monet or something, and I just can't fucking stand her, bro. Like, I hate looking at her. I hate the way her music sounds. I hate just everything about it sucks. And the fact she has genuine attention, and I'll look in the comment section, and there'll be what I assume to be genuine, real people being like, oh my god, this music is insane. Where has this music been in my life? It's like, bro, it's a robot. It's not even a real person. It's not even real music. Like, it could be written by somebody, but it's not performed by an actual person, at least. It's AI generated. Like, it's crazy to me, you know? Same thing goes for art. Like, people will auto-generate the most garbage animation you've ever seen and be like, yo, AI animation is the future. But then talk about something like One Punch Man Season 3 and be like, yo, this shit is garbage. Not to say that I'm defending One Punch Man Season 3, because I do think its production is a mess, right? but it's better than AI animation by far, right? I would rather have One Punch Man Season 3 any day than fucking AI animation, bro. That shit is crazy to me. Like, I can't believe people think and say that shit genuinely. Like, not even being sarcastic or ironic. It's wild to me. Like, sorry that I got so passionate about that. It's just wild to me that people actually think some shit like that. You know, it's crazy. Um, but I do think that we should call it here because, for one, I ran out of topics, and two, I think this is a good length for what you could call an introductory video to one of these. So I hope you enjoyed, right? And if you did, make sure to leave a comment down below talking about like what your favorite part of this was. Leave any suggestions you have for any future videos on this topic, or in this, like, I guess you could say subject, you know, in this like podcast kind of format. If you have any like guests or any people you think you would seriously want to be featured on here that you think I could feasibly get, like other animators, other people in the Sticknodes content creating space, or like other podcasters, other shit like that, just let me know down in the comments below. I'll see what I can do, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. I'll see all you guys. Make sure you have a good day or a good night, wherever it is for you. Make sure you eat well. Stay hydrated, like I've been saying this whole time. You know, it's always good to drink. I've been drinking while I've been recording this, so my lips don't get chapped and my mouth doesn't get dry. But it's always important to stay hydrated, you know, and feed yourself. Make sure that you're taken care of. And I hope somebody gives you a compliment today. If not, then just remember that you're awesome. And I will see all of you in the next video. Goodbye.